Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our major stories. The NLC and NUT defy warnings by the police and take to the streets of Kaduna in protests against the sack of over 20,000 teachers. State government insists decision is in the best interest of the people. Calls for urgent solution to farmers and herdsmen crisis heighten as the victims of the recent attacks in Benue State are laid to rest in Makurdi, the state capital. Restructuring of Nigeria debate re-echoes in Enugu as leaders from Nigeria's southern region discuss the state of the nation. One killer herdsman declared terrorists. And European Union asks the United States not to abandon its 2015 nuclear deal with Iran. For more on our top stories and others, please visit our website. It's channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channelsweb. Log on to m.channelstv.com to watch us on your mobile device or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. And there's more. The Channels TV and Channels 24 app will give you access to news and updates. You also have the Eyewitness feature with which you can share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app and tap the device and it will reveal all those menus. The people of Benue State bid farewell to 73 of their kinsmen today, killed in different attacks by violent herdsmen, and the governor is insisting that he would ensure justice is done. In an emotional address to the crowd, the governor, Samuel Otom, insists on the full implementation of the open grazing law as a mark of respect for the victims. An international human rights lawyer, Professor Aibo Madaiki, is threatening to go even further by filing a war crime suit against the federal government if it fails to arrest the perpetrators.
Grief-stricken faces, bloodshot eyes from long hours of weeping. That's the mood at the IBB Square, Makurdi, the Benue State capital. Bereaved families, friends, governments, traditional rulers gather to receive the remains of the 73 farmers who were killed by suspected herdsmen on January the 1st. They are here to pay their last respect. In the midst of the sadness, there is still anger as some vow to build a war crime case if the federal government does not bring the perpetrators to book.
I dare say that the failure to have mitigated these damages, the failure to have stemmed it, the failure to have prevented it is a complete abandonment of the constitutional responsibility of the federal government.
The Tortiv and the United Nations representative believe the people of Benue State have every right to life and must be protected.
The international community is watching. And a voice will rise someday, somewhere, to question what is going on here. We have suffered and suffered enough. I call upon the federal government to arise and put an end to this wickedness.
We have all failed the victims. We have all failed to provide protection to women and children and the elderly victims of this attack. The United Nations human rights mechanisms have urged national authorities to live up to their obligations under national law and international treaties.
For the governor of the state, Samuel Otom, justice must be sought and the open grazing prohibition law will be fully implemented.
This is all about land. If these killings by our enemies are to deter us from operating the anti-open grazing law in Benue State that was legally processed, they have failed. Because we will not be cowed we will not be deterred by their act.
And then the bodies are taken to the cemetery for the final interment. On this grave marker is written, Mlahaga Abraham, herdsman genocide victim, January 1st, 2018. And one after the other, they are laid to rest. A dark cloud appears to have covered Benue State, and until this matter is resolved peacefully and permanently, the people of Benue may find it hard to sleep with their eyes closed.
Ranching, that's what the Plateau State Governor, Simon Lalong, says is the solution to the crisis in Benue State. Governor Lalong says he warned his colleague in Benue State against setting up the law without taking some necessary steps. He was in Abuja after a meeting with the president on the relative peace in his state, making a tribute to the decision to donate lands to the herdsmen.
I told them, even the government, thank you, sir. Fine, thank you, sir. Thank you, Happy New Year, sir. I was doing the law, I said, why don't you do, just be careful, take the other steps before you start implementation. Well, but states are different. He said his own concept is different. We have lands, we donated voluntarily, communities donated their lands, went ready for launching. But again, I said that in ranching, the concept of ranching, nobody studied ranching like me last year. I cannot wake up like some people said last year that I should go and do anti-grazing law. And I said, anti-grazing law for what? We're talking about ranching. We're talking of livestock development, of livestock business. I cannot use the word anti to driving people who are interested. It's for people who are interested to come and involve themselves in it. And two, I can't implement. There are levels of implementation which requires federal government intervention, provision of rangers. And two, and secondly, when you are talking about ranching, this is a component of agricultural business. You also require subsidy. Subsidy must come from federal government. Subsidy must also come from state. And by the time we develop it, we put every structures on ground. Then we can bring laws to guide to regulate the implementation.
Governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong. Now let's move over to our Abuja studios where Ibrahim Adra is standing by with more news from the clashes between farmers and herdsmen in Benue State.
Well, absolutely, Melinda. We're still talking the clashes here between farmers and herders. A former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Obadiah Melafia, believes the crisis is a time bomb waiting to explode if not handled with the seriousness it deserves. Mr. Obadiah was speaking on behalf of the Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel, Mr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers, at a book launch in Abuja. He says those behind the crisis are targeting the food system of the nation by creating an agrarian crisis.
It was a gathering of diplomats, politicians and the military as Nigeria's former permanent representative to the United Nations Security Council, Ambassador Joy Ogu, unveiled 3 books: Building Bridges, The Anatomy of Consensus, and Leadership, Democracy and the Challenges of Development.
And this books, the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Ambassador Ogu gives insight into the 3 books.
The second book, Building Bridges, is about Nigeria's experience in the Security Council. Since independence, Nigeria has been in the Security Council 5 times. Out of those 5 times, in 4 years, we went successively to the Security Council. That is where the decisions are made, in the Security Council.
Other speakers at the event expressed concern over the increasing rate of insecurity and violence which is currently rocking the nation.
The rural herders' problem has the capacity to destroy this country. And for the life of me, I don't understand why we are not treating it with the seriousness it deserves. If you want to destroy Nigeria, just target the food system. Target the food system. And whoever wants to destroy Nigeria, that's what they're doing. They're targeting the food system to those privileged to lead us. Look at it again. Look at it with justice and the fear of God.
You know, the realities on the ground is that instead of being each other's keepers, we are now each other's killers. Very unfortunate, very disturbing, very discouraging. But there is hope for Nigeria because we have brilliant people who keep propelling good ideas. And you know, ideas are powerful.
The peace of any nation cannot be jeopardized if that nation is to make progress. And that appears to be the lesson from this book launch. Amaka Okafo, Channels Television News.
A senior member of a killer gang alleged to have carried out the New Year Day killings in Omoku, River State, has been arrested by the police. A 32-year-old suspect, Desmond Okutubo, was arrested after an engagement with officers of the IG's intelligence response team in Mpape area of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Police claim that the suspect has confessed to be one of the masterminds of the Omoku massacre and also accounted for 29 other members of the group who, along with him, crossed the Awara River to Omoku town, where the killing was carried out. Force Public Relations Officer Jumo Mushut says the suspect will be arraigned in court on completion of investigation as the police intensify efforts to arrest fleeing members of the gang. Meanwhile, there are reports of fresh attacks on some Nigerians living in South Africa, with at least 4 persons reported to be in critical condition in a Rustenburg hospital, while some shops belonging to Nigerians have been burnt. The chairman of the Nigerian Union in South Africa's Northwest Province, Paul Nwanedo, confirmed that taxi drivers in Rustenburg beat up 4 Nigerians for allegedly abducting a 16-year-old girl and for selling drugs to a local gang that attacked their members. Nwanedo says the leaders of the Nigerian Union in South Africa have investigated the allegations and found out that they are not true. He explains that the matter has been reported to the police, while many Nigerians in Rustenburg are still living in fear. Police spokesperson in Rustenburg, Sabata Mokobone, says the reasons for the violent protest is unclear, but confirmed that the burnt houses are those occupied by foreign nationals. Last year, the senior special assistant to President Buhari on diaspora, Mrs. Abike Dabri-Erewa, said more than 100 Nigerians were killed in South Africa between 2016 and 2017. The representative of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees to Nigeria and ECOWAS, Mr. Antonio Chakandula, is seeking the cooperation of the Nigerian government in addressing the social needs of Cameroonian refugees in some parts of Benue and Cross River states. Mr. Kahandula says there is need for more investment in the education, health and security, promising that the Commission will continue to update its database to help address their challenges.
Mother.
Thank you.
Government officials and officials of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees at a meeting to seek ways of improving the welfare of over 10,000 Cameroonian refugees in Benue, Makurdi, Taraba and Akwa Ibom states. No doubt, this huge population camping at this facility require assistance, and the representative of the United Nations Refugee Commission wants their welfare addressed.
From what we understood talking to the refugees, in Cameroon they had been out of school for the last 2 years. And therefore we need to see how we can give these refugee children quick access to education so they can start again.
Government officials at the meeting give a rundown of what they have done since the arrival of the refugees. This includes profiling of the Cameroonians and the provision of basic services to make life better for them.
The essence of our presence, especially in securing these refugees within defined limits or locations called camps, is to ensure profiling and screening, to know whom we have within our midst and be able to account for them.
And the Commission is going to do everything possible in safeguarding the principles of protection and assistance to our persons of concern, being them, they are asylum seekers or refugees in the country.
While the refugees hope for better welfare at this temporary shelter where they now consider home, the consensus here is that government and the international organizations have roles to play in resolving the conflict in that country.
You're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. Nigerian Communications Commission and Central Bank set new deadline for takeover of telecom firms, 9 Mobile. That'll be after the break. Do join us again.